So the Ultimate Fighter is officially back after 3 years off with the first episode already in the books. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know if you guys are new to my channel, if you watched me before, but I'm a pretty hardcore MMA fan, and I've never actually watched the Ultimate Fighter. This is my first time ever like watching it episode for episode and get into it. I've seen like clips here and there, but I've never really been invested for like the entirety of a whole season. And one episode in, I can already guarantee you I'm going to be hooked for this season. Right away, just to jump into like the very first episode, the very first fight, the Andre and Aaron fight. That fight pretty much went like how I expected to go. I figured that Andre probably like was gonna win. I could just tell there was an intensity difference. It seemed very evident that Aaron was relying on that one heavy shot. And then also the fact that he said like a lot of his MMA stuff he learned off of YouTube was a bit weird to me. And then on top of the fact that he was a fighter out of Alaska, I do tend to hate a little bit on some of the Alaskan fighters simply because I just feel like the location of Alaska in comparison to like the rest of the United States, where it's like all kind of together, I guess, the United States, and there's Alaska way up there. I feel like you don't have the same access to like training and everything that you would if you actually lived in like the United States region. Even though you still are a part of the United States, it's a lot harder because you're like kind of isolated like northwest away from the United States. So I'm not necessarily sold, but I'm just a little skeptical on some of those fighters that come out of like AFC, the Alaskan Fight Championship, and some of those Alaskan promotions, just simply for that reason. That's kind of why I figured that Aaron would probably be kind of at a skill deficit, and it seemed like there was definitely a skill deficit and like an intensity, just like it just seemed like Andre was like really ready for the fight, and he was ready to go. My only complaint though, and I will say about that fight, and I don't know because I've never really watched like the Ultimate Fighter like I mentioned, but I feel like this is gonna happen for a lot of other fights, or it could be every single fight. I don't know, it may not happen, but I feel like a lot of these fights, like within the first 2 minutes, like this past fight, no strikes are going to be thrown, like no action's going to happen, simply for the simple fact that the people are going to, like the fighter is going to be scared to make any moves, slip up, make a mistake, because they all know the consequences of making one mistake where the fight's pretty much over after that, especially being on the Ultimate Fighter where it's like your big stepping stone to get into the UFC. One funny thing though that I did notice, it was pretty funny, like in between scenes, every time that Andre would talk, whenever it'd just be like him talking to the camera like how I am right now, and then they'd show B-roll after that, like at the end of each and every single one of those like little interview pieces or whatever, his facial expression at the end of every single one was flipping hilarious. They would crack me up, like the way he would talk to the camera, like he was like, Aaron doesn't know what's coming at him, and like look at the camera like very intensely. It was so flippin' weird. There's like, it wasn't even just like one occasion, it was multiple occasions. The facial expressions he would give off afterwards were flippin' hilarious, and I kept calling him Julian Marquez because the dude literally looked like Julian Marquez. He could be like Julian Marquez's brother. And then they announced the second fight at the end of the first episode, the Ludovic and Raposo fight, and honestly with that fight, I'm kind of leaning towards Ludovic. I actually kind of have a little bit of my opinion swayed after watching some of Raposo's film, but honestly, like when I compare the records and I look at the caliber of opponents and the competition they fought, I feel like Raposo's been brought up a little bit slower. He's kind of been brought up similar to how you'd bring up like a boxer, where you're fighting, I guess the only way to say is you're fighting trash cans. It seems like he's fought like a lot less tougher competition. Like if you look at the records of his opponents, like I don't know what the best record of the person, like the people he's fought, but I mean, like there was people that were like they didn't even have wins, people that were like 4-3, 3-4, like their records weren't good. I mean, Ludovic definitely had some of those people in there, but he also fought a lot tougher competition. He fought people that are currently in the UFC, Vince Cachero. He beat Vince Cachero, and again, though Vince Cachero is not someone that I'm necessarily sold on being like a UFC caliber fighter, but he beat someone who is currently in the UFC, and he's fought opponents and beat opponents with better records and kind of tougher competition, if you will. He's got more experience overall, if we're just talking about overall fight experience, both amateur and pros. And just given the fact too that Raposo is only 22 makes me a little bit nervous, because I just feel like you can't really develop the skills and get that much experience in that short time. I don't know exactly how long Raposo's been training. I mean, he could have been training since he was like 15, 16. That's like 7-8 years of training. I don't feel like someone like Ludovic, who's a little bit older, I just feel like you get a little bit more experience, and obviously having the actual legitimate fight experience that you can see on his record. It just seems like that Ludovic is a little bit more seasoned. Raposo kind of like, he reminds me of Michael Chandler. The way he moves around, he like bounces around with that like real wide guard, the way he moves, and it looks like he just kind of stalks his opponent, takes us into the octagon and stalks his opponent around the outside of the cage essentially, and just tries to cut him off and land that one big power shot. That seems to be like Raposo's main game plan. Ludovic just seems to be like he's just simply going for the takedown 24/7, which I don't really like, because I feel like Raposo is just going to know that and he could set something up, and Raposo seems like a pretty powerful guy. I think maybe the overall experience that Ludovic has could give him the edge, but I don't know. Initially I really was leaning towards Ludovic, but I think Raposo given the power and the athleticism he has, could cause a little bit of problems. And Ludovic doesn't really move his head as well as Raposo, so it'll be interesting to see. Ultimately, I think I'm going to lean towards Ludovic, but we won't know until the actual episode airs on Tuesday. And I actually might be doing like a live watch along if that's something you guys are interested in. So if you guys check in on my channel at Tuesday around the time that the fights actually happen. But overall, on my overall season prediction after episode 1, if I look at all the fighters, I watched a couple interviews with some of the guys they had on YouTube that were on The Ultimate Fighter, and I watched some film of people here and there. My overall season prediction for my overall winner, at least for the middleweights, whatever it is, I'm gonna go with Tresean Gore. Based on his story, based on the film that I've seen, his record, everything like that, the dude's got serious power. He's built like a flippin' freak. He's an athletic freak. I really believe that, like, if you listen to his story, everything he's been through, the struggles he's experienced in his life, I really believe that, like Mike Tyson says, that fighting comes from the gutter. It comes from like really tough places. When you come from like the lowest points in your life, that's where like you get your best fighters. You don't get them from people like someone who grew up a little bit more comfortable. I just feel like that is an intangible that you can't really get, like that grit and that tenacity. And I really believe that someone like that has that kind of work ethic on top of the athletic ability, and it looks like he's got some serious knockout power. I'm really riding with Tresean Gore. That is my early prediction on who I think is going to win the Ultimate Fighter, and kind of given the way that they were promoting him a little bit with ESPN, he was like one of the main people they were kind of promoting, so I could kind of see him being the winner. That's who I think is going to win. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we don't know because it's fighting. Anything can happen. We're only in episode 1, and I think this is going to go throughout the entirety of like the summer and early fall. That's my pick. Let me know your guys' pick in the comment section below. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like, share this video if you guys know anyone else that watches The Ultimate Fighter or just likes this type of content. Please send my video their way. If you guys have not subscribed already, please go ahead, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, I will catch you guys later.